Other companies' IP can destroy your business. This will become more critical just as you're becoming more successful. Over the years, I've generated billions of dollars in value with IP and can tell you real-life horror stories, how you can avoid the same traps, and how to stand out to investors. The first story concerns Waymo and Uber. After Uber had raised billions of dollars, they acquired a startup that had been founded by a former Waymo engineer, Anthony Lewandowski. Waymo learned that the engineer had downloaded 9.7 gigabytes of sensitive information and took it with him. Waymo didn't sue Lewandowski, they sued Uber, alleging that confidential files relating to LiDAR technology had been taken and built into Uber's self-driving truck program. Waymo looked for an injunction to prevent Uber using Lewandowski's knowledge and their own sensitive information. This dispute arose just as Uber was preparing for a public market launch and was trying to strengthen investor confidence. Eventually, the litigation was settled, and Uber agreed to give Waymo roughly $245 million worth of stock and accept additional obligations regarding Waymo's confidential information. Within 6 months, Uber closed down their self-driving truck program. Now, a company like Uber can survive a setback like this. But could you? What would you do if you hired a senior key employee and couldn't use them for months after an expensive recruitment campaign, sign-on bonus, and months of continuing to pay a salary while they can't work? Could you handle the distraction and expense of a nasty legal case? How about the reputational damage and the disturbance when you should really be focusing on rapid scaling? You can see how taking in a senior executive to boost your talent can create lots of problems if you're not careful about some of the trade secret risks that you could be importing into your company. The second example was ZeniMax Media and Oculus in the virtual reality arena. In 2014, Facebook acquired the VR headset maker Oculus for approximately $2 billion. ZeniMax was a competing company and claimed that key VR technology had been developed using its intellectual property. This happened just 2 months after the highly successful exit had already occurred. In this case, a jury awarded $500 million in damages against Oculus. And it didn't end there. Immediately afterwards, ZeniMax asked for injunctions to block the sales of Oculus Rift headsets. The disputes continued for another 18 months and led to a settlement being negotiated. Some of the lessons here are that acquirers should look closely at founder prior employment, side projects, consulting agreements, and ownership documentation. Technology ownership questions that seem minor early on can become major acquisition risks. The final story concerns IBM and the company formerly known as Twitter. Twitter was preparing for its highly anticipated IPO when IBM asserted that Twitter was infringing several of their patents. The period before an IPO is always a sensitive time when investors want certainty. Can you imagine the amount of complexity involved in simply scaling your business and preparing for a major liquidity event? You can't afford to have unnecessary complications when you already have enough to deal with. Ultimately, Twitter entered into a patent acquisition and licensing agreement with IBM. Before you say, "But Raymond, I'm not Uber, Oculus, or Twitter," still realize that at any level of this game, you can face IP risks. You might also think that when you're the scale of Uber, Oculus, or Twitter, you can afford to fix these problems. But these are the stories of the rare companies that faced the massive challenges and survived. There are countless other stories of companies that hit a tough IP barrier and didn't survive. Scaling companies don't rely on IP to stop competitors from copying them. They're more focused on IP strategies that will clear all growth obstacles. Your IP strategy must cover the IP risks that you will inevitably face when you become more successful. And honestly speaking, it's much more cost effective and less painful to cover some of the simple basic steps right now.